In this world, we continue to walk swimmingly into destiny. For a day ago, destiny happened, but tomorrow, destiny will continue to happen and be embellished by those we call foreseers. Some might say that such a journey has hit the soul, while others say that soul is just room where bad thoughts pace barefoot. For what is the opposite of foot? What is the opposite of hit? What is the opposite of salt?
Pepper!
No, bear with me now. They are simply two spices trying to get by.
My condolences, looks like that thought was unhinged. Let me fix that.
Job's done.
As for me, well, I don't walk the path. I walk adjacent to it, for liability reasons.
Damn it, this ain't gonna be a walk in the park.
The East Burgundian Gambit continues to be one of the strongest builds in Identity V, allowing for new gameplay possibilities that were never possible before. But as my ancestors say, no Oreo man rules forever, for there have been many changes to the game that have negatively impacted the performance of the build. Perfumer now has a shield upon using her perfume. Lanternist has been released, who counters the core essence of the palate-breaking aspect of the East Burgundian Gambit. These things alone would be devastating to the old East Burgundian Gambit. But luckily, the developers of NetEase have thrown us a bone, an increase of 10 points to the persona tree, allowing us to refine the East Burgundian Gambit and make it more suitable for today's meta. Ever since those perks were added, our Oreo scientists have been testing different combinations of the build. The earliest combinations tried to mitigate the damage dealt, but these did not end up working whatsoever, for a man that assumes loss is bound to fail. Yet, as you can see, we haven't failed, for we downed the perfumer in reasonable time. For one of our Oreo scientists has found the good perks to use by adding the perk Panic, and one of the new perks, Overwhelm. We were able to counter all things that the survivors can do. Watch how the build helps me in this camp. The cheerleader coming in from the side of the building, stealthing, and as you can see, I ensure to attack before the minion is activated, ensuring the maximum chance that the perfumer can escape and force me to switch targets. However, that is to my benefit, for the perk Overwhelm now activates, giving me a 5% attack boost for the rest of the match. Additionally, since the perfumer has undergone an injury, she now contributes to the Panic, reducing her and all her teammates' attributes by a small but significant margin. And as you can see, the perfumer is about to use her new ability, obtaining herself a shield. But we counter this by going back to the cheerleader, who is also one chair in. The extra map control of having two survivors on one chair gave us multiple options that the survivors need to account for, and both Overwhelm and Panic allow us to snowball this advantage. And as me and this cheerleader wait for the Tide Turner's time to expire, we need to congratulate the Oreo scientist that ultimately invented this build, Jim Bellathan, the one who knocks 4 times before entering. Jim Bellathan was born in 1997 to a middle-class family in East Burgundian. In case you don't know him, he is the great-grandson of Jim Bethune, the one who goes skydiving past 9 o'clock. At the age of 4, his family moved to East Burgundy, where they learned many things about the legendary Jean Ganador V. For Identity IV and the original East Burgundian Gambit were some of the most popular cultural icons of the region at that time. This led him to become an Identity IV prodigy, all the way back in 2012. However, he never reached top 1. Why? Because his great-great-great-great-grandfather, Huzukius, already claimed the title of the one who was the best player at games greater than Identity 1. You see, Jim Bellathan did not want to be a copycat. He wanted to be a unique generation of his family. He wanted to be Bing chilling instead of Google chilling. For many years he worked in various jobs, never finding such purpose, until he came under my Oreo hood and was assigned a task to upgrade the East Burgundian Gambit. And so he went on a journey very similar to the original Jean Ganador V. And because transportation is a lot faster nowadays, he was able to do this in only a couple months, as opposed to years like back then. So of course, that means his first destination was the island of Iceland. When he arrived to the distant lands of Iceland, he met a peculiar, curvy-back man who told him that all identity-related events were now permanently banned. As a result, Jim Bellathan needed to search elsewhere. And so he went to the second place Jean Gator V went, the island of Hispaniola. He would not be ready for what would happen to him next. Just as he arrived upon the Caribbean shores, he would be arrested by anti-Oreo personnel. It turns out there was a large conspiracy involving the intentional death of the East Burgundian Gambit, so that they could replace it with less meta builds so that the survivors win more and get their hunters buffed. It was foul play, but Jim Bellethon held not the power to counter it. Because they did not believe him when he gave them his personal information, they took him to a max security prison, just in case his name was Max. He was taken to a cell, where his cellmate, assumingly named Max, was a SEAL man. As Jim Bellethon spent time in this prison, the guards learned of his previous jobs, and would torture him by making him do his old boring jobs over and over again. So of course, Jim Bellethon had enough. He planned to escape this place with his friend, the SEAL man. After making a deal what they would both give each other after they escaped, Jim Bellethon deployed a peeper to see when the next guard would come. Since that was the trait he selected before leaving, they were able to successfully knock out the guard by slamming him against a chair. However, it turns out they didn't even need the key because the bars were wide enough to slip through should your name not be Max. Jim Bellethon then knew that the SEAL was not named Max, just like him. Unfortunately, they were quickly spotted, and another guard tried to activate the alarm. However, because he had already injured one guard, the activating alarm time was reduced by 2.5%, allowing Jim Bellethon enough time to stop him. They then carefully positioned that guard on a chair to make it look like he was just taking a nap. They then found a conveniently placed hole that they could jump out of. However, they noticed that it was past 9 o'clock, so if they were to jump out of that window, they would be skydiving past 9 o'clock. The two held out for hours against overwhelming odds. Jim Bellethon attributed his survival to the fact that every time he defeated an enemy, he would only need to wait 5% less than if he had not defeated those other two guards and placed them on chairs. When dawn finally arrived, he jumped out of the window and then bounced up and down on this dude's house that was for some reason next to the prison, must be some anti-Oreo tradition, 4 times before crashing through the roof into his living room. Unfortunately, he was too injured to continue and was recaptured, but special Oreoic infantry were able to break him out at a later, undisclosed time. It was through this life experience that he was able to come up with a new variation of the East Burgundian Gambit, leveraging all the Oh, the video just ended. Bye. Are you still here? I thought the video ended. I see only the void. It's like an Oreo wafer on my screen, but very zoomed in. Where's Oreo tech support when you need them?
Okay, I think I fixed it. My apologies for the inconvenience.